Good morning and welcome to today's webinar. It's 10 o'clock on the West Coast and we're not shaking or baking. How about you guys? Hey, we got quite a crowd today. I guess profiling it or profiling is an important concept. Hey, yeah, it is. But we're going to, break with tradition and we're going to hop right over into Civil 3D and just show some cool stuff about profiles right away. So let's hop over into the drawing. This is actually a drawing manufactured out of the dataset you can get with the free jump. This is in release 12, so we're just about to release IOB for 12 and the new jump kit for 12 with lots of new really cool stuff. So figured I'd zoom around and show you some of that cool stuff, right? Things like basic support for different kinds of vertical curves and label constructions that do all that kind of stuff automatically. This is a fairly simple profile after all, right? And as you can see, we're doing the high point and we're doing the point of vertical intersection, and we can see it's an asymmetrical parabola pulling off, the length 1, length 2, right? All that key kind of stuff that you need to have, right? Got a sag curve down here. Dink, as you can see, this one happens to be asymmetrical, and we'll mess around with a couple of those things and see how we built those things and how we can redefine them. Okay, and of course, this is Civil 3D, and hey, if you don't like the way it looks right now, changing it is ridiculously simple, right? And so, hey, what happened? I grabbed more than one kind of label. So the ribbon kind of goes, oh, you got a bunch of labels and you don't get exactly where you want to go. When in doubt, right click is your friend, and you can always get to labeling this pile of stuff, right, that in Civil 3D we call a group label. And alignments are labeled this way, profiles are labeled this way, and this kind of mechanics gives us a tremendous amount of annotative flexibility. We can do things, label sag curves multiple ways. We have this idea of a whole set, so I could say, hey, slap this back and make it look like this, and that feeds into my group label set, right? Not only the styles I picked, which you have lots of choices if you got a copy of the jump, it also sets up all these funky little parameters over here, so that everything changes, looks different. You get different kinds of curves, K values, right? Length of curve information, much simpler, different graphic output, and all that kind of stuff. So you got a lot of individual control, and you have a lot of group control. As you can see, we'll look at a couple of other things in this profile. So this is a fairly, not really complicated, but there's a little bit of sophisticated stuff going on here. We got multiple flow lines being shown, ditches being shown from our corridor in our profile, and maybe, hey, you want to label those, do different things, and we'll kind of explore how you might do some of those things too as we focus on making things look differently and better, employing this idea of style in Civil 3D that pretty much, if you don't like the way it looks, you can make it look differently. And one of the things we got is this idea in Civil 3D is that we have data. And so over in the Prospector tab, going to move a couple things here, right? We have an alignment collection, and you will see simple basic stuff that there's no such thing as a profile collection. So right away in Civil 3D, there is this idea that a profile is collected under its alignment. So here is our major alignment, which is somewhere, maybe on the screen, maybe not even in this drawing. It happens to be in this case. And we got a whole bunch of profiles. And as you can see, there are a bunch of potential profiles that we've thrown, and some of them may show and some of them may not. So in terms of Civil 3D, we have this underlying concept of a feature that collects a bunch of data and may or may not show it, but makes it usable in our drawing. And there are a couple of interesting things that we got going on right here in terms of our profile. You know, one of the things you can do here very often is, I can select that alignment, but I can't, even in 12, select that profile in my drawing. Why? Well, it's just not there yet. Okay, so one of the things we get in the tool space, but other things get a little bit more difficult. One, that profile might be in 2 or 3 different views in my drawing, just for example. So things could be a little bit more dicey about finding where that is. However, but anything we can pick on the screen, Civil 3D is going to tell us what it is, and the ribbon's going to respond and let us do things to it. Notice also in the ribbon, it tells you some important things about Civil 3D and profiles, that they are intimately connected to this idea of a view. So when you select a profile, if it's showing on your screen, it's in a view, even if the view isn't even visible or contains nothing. So our current view right here, right? So we can look at our view properties, right? And, grab this profile view. Okay, there are a bunch of ways to grab it. I happen to grab one of the axes, right? And it too has a style, and of course, just about anyway. One of the big things we did, the new jump kit has like 225 to 250 different view styles. So, hey, if you don't like the way it looks, you probably find what you want. This drawing just happens to have loaded up 10x versions, and we'll pick something where we're going to pick, basic. This is a clipped set of grids where you pick the profile, PP, pretty easy to understand, and all the axis annotation is the same, and it has a 10x, vertical applied to it. What does that mean? Well, that means, given my current drawing scale, which I set up in my drawing, it's going to exaggerate everything by 10x, which at 40 scale is going to be a 4:1. Okay, simple, pretty basic, easy things, and instantly I get a totally different look and feel for the view. There's some nice things that we did, including the stationing, including the elevations here. So every single profile view shows you the range of elevations, and if you split things, they all show up in all the nice places, and we get views that all plot correctly. And so, we can do something right away here. Is show me layout, right? Well, actually, I should probably do that in a drawing that I did some other stuff in, but hey, what the heck? Let's do it here. We'll do it from the raw. Give me a quick view, right? Here's my current layout. Hey, let's plot this thing. This is going to be ugly, right? And we have nothing set up, so I haven't done anything with my drawing yet. I should drag a layout in, do all kinds of stuff to make this simple, but hey, this is the jump. All the stuff actually works. We probably want to connect to an STB file since we employ STB just to make things easier. And, we can preview this, and this is going to be an ugly little thing down in the corner. It's going to be right away, so ugly. But you can see right away that, hey, we're getting screening to work and all that kind of stuff, right? And I didn't do a regen all. I broke every single plotting rule there is in the book, right? And I'm going to apply this to my layout just so reps don't want to plot, want to hit cancel, and just, hey, we'll just do sloppy here. Drag my viewport out, make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and hop down inside, and zoom, Yeah, that should work about right. Hop back out, grab this. Okay, and we've all done this a million times, and this is a viewport. It's got properties. It's got a scale. Hey, 40 scale will be good, right? Okay, so I set my scale, do a regen all, and hey, everything turns out better. Quick view of my layouts, and oh, I can hit the little plot icon. Oh, that's kind of cool, right? And boom, and hey, I get a nice little plot with everything in the right place, everything at the right scale, if right is what you mean. And you'll notice a couple other things here about those offset profiles, right? Like our ditch, they looked one way when we showed them on the screen, and we'll go back and take a look at that, but parts of them don't plot. So one of the great things about Style and Civil 3D is that we have the ability to show us stuff we need to see to understand and give us triggers, but they don't get in the way when we plot. So we have this idea of if we could put no plot stuff, information on our screen that we see that don't clutter up, right, our final output. Now we, might not like the output exactly, but hey, this is Civil 3D and we can change just about anything we want. Okay, so built into the jump, or all this giant collection of styles, ways of approaching the problem of managing how you print, how you design, how you do your QA are fundamental to how the jump works. So let's hop back to our slideshow here. And for those of you who don't know me, here's how you contact us: 1-800-584-1506. That's me. That's my name. Yes, and that's my real name. And I'm always happy to hear from you. You can email me at tencht@cadpilot.com. Always interested in comments. What you're going to be looking at fundamentally is pretty much instant on basic for Civil 3D. Works on the concepts of, instead of building everything in scratch and reinventing the wheel, somebody provides you something pretty easy for you to personalize, get work out the door based on the national CAD standard. And I do want to point out here that all that stuff from Land Desktop, it's all built in, so the old world is the new world in Civil 3D. It can't be exactly the way it is because Civil 3D is not Land Desktop, but all the graphic support, everything that looked like it used to, is in there. Okay, and they're the Instant on Basic has the most used NCS and LDT styles. A couple of thousand styles, label styles, sets, and all that stuff. A working project management tool, project database to do that, ready to run templates, and it plots out of the box. So we think that makes that simply ridiculous productivity for the cost that we charge. The jump kit, if it's not in there, it's in the jump kit. The release 12 release will have about 5,000 styles collected into nice, reasonable piles so that you can figure out what's in there and chew it all up, right? Like we said, they're profile view styles and section view styles by the hundreds, right? And they're all broken up into nice by feature drawings. So if I'm looking for something that has to do with profile views, that's pretty easy to find inside the jump kit and plunk into your template, or a drawing for that matter. It includes something that we call the NCS symbol set, which you can also get yourself. So that's thousands, thousand, right, symbols or more, all the blocks plus all the point styles, all with classic NCS-like naming conventions, support for fuel oil, industrial waste, all that kind of stuff, erosion control, traffic, things that just aren't in there inside Civil 3D, right? And annotative symbols, multiple versions of, hey, I want my property corners to look like this, 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 or this. It's all in there. And you can see it, download it. It's inexpensive. It's done on a site license basis for a simple set and for the jump kit. And so you can manufacture what you need. So blocks only is a subset of the symbol set. It's just the blocks. They work for everything from AutoCAD LT. You can even port them back to desktop 9 if you're still using that kind of stuff, right? And so AutoCAD users are not deprived of the same standardized stuff. And they're all well-built, cleaned, and don't have any of the legacy stuff, and they employ classic jump naming conventions, which are all documented. And you can actually go up to the website, download the free jump, and get the documentation so you understand what you're going to get. And as far as we know, nobody else in the world does that kind of stuff for anything, any price, anywhere. So let's take a look at profiles. A couple of key things about profiles. I always like to remind people that you can draw AutoCAD primitives. Everybody can draw a P-line, right? And maybe that's how we're used to doing it, right? In AutoCAD, in LDD, right? But in Civil 3D, we get this idea of the layout toolbar. And this is true for alignments and profiles. And there's a reason these things work together. We already saw one of the consequences is that alignments and profiles are fundamentally tied together in reality in civil design. So if we're talking about alignment, we're always talking about a profile. Whether there's a design profile or not, that's another issue, but they're irrevocably linked together. So we have this idea of something horizontal and vertical control are a reality all the time when we're talking about an alignment. So the tools work very much the same. And that makes things easier for us, really. Once you get it, right, it's easier. Okay, the other idea that we have in Civil 3D is instead of just having, CAD primitives with geolocations, point bases, we also have this idea of rule-based segments. So whether it's a curve or a tangent, they're basic engineering, standard engineering method and practice here that can be applied. And so the layout toolbars help you enforce all that and keep that in link so that your alignment, doesn't have non-tangent curves. So it's perfectly acceptable to build a non-tangent curve into an alignment or even a profile for that matter. So we have this idea of types that we see in the layout toolbars. So we'll show you this a little bit. All right, we have this idea of a fixed type, and that's basically you pick points and define the geometry, and it's not connected to its neighbors. Okay, so fixed means it doesn't move. Okay, and therefore not very editable or changeable, and not very susceptible to any other kind of rule changes that you apply. So once again, AutoCAD primitives converted, so I can create a profile from objects, okay, get you fixed entities. Okay, they might be a fast and dirty way to get something done, but you don't have a lot of control over changing the result. And since we're all about getting better design, getting there faster, changing is important. We have this idea of a floating entity. For example, a curve that is tangent to the start or the end, right? Because it can be before or after, and there are a bunch of types of those. In alignments, we have more of these types of entities than we do in profiles, simply because that's true in the real world. And finally, we have free, which really means that it's only exists to connect the pieces on the other sides in terms of vertical curves. And this is a classic way that, hey, I want to always maintain this kind of vertical curve, right, to both tangents. And that would be a typical design constraint that you see. Most people want to see that happen, and most of the time that's what we want to see. So very often, we'll be doing freeze, and it's sort of like the default inside of the way Civil 3D works. And there are a couple other defaults that are kind of built into the way Civil 3D works, and you can control those defaults. So if you work in a jurisdiction that requires you to use asymmetric parabolics all the time because, civil engineer George thought that was cool. You could do so, simple command setting in Civil 3D. So we got these three major types, and they're both in alignments and both in profiles. Once you get them, they're a little confusing in the beginning, but once you get them, I got this. Okay. So simple thing is float, pick one. Free, pick two. Fix, don't get to change it. Okay. All right. So, how does this apply in terms of editing? So, if we take our design profile, and trust me, that's my design profile, okay, and it has those vertical curves, which at this point are nicely labeled, right? And how do we change that? Oh, we grab this, and you'll notice there's one, I grab all these labels, and that's different from those labels. And if I drag these around, there are a couple of subtleties in how you might arrange our labels here, right? Okay, so I can grab these, and now I've manually changed those. And one of the things you could do is right click and reset all the group labels. Well, that doesn't really reset all the group labels. That only resets crest curves, or this only resets side curves. Okay, so there are, again, types of groups labels, right? But oh, wait a minute. We were supposed to stay focused on those types. What were those types, sir? Oh, okay, we were talking about profile segment types. Okay, so we want to go back here and we want to go grab our profile and we want to edit this. Well, where's that in the ribbon? Okay, geometry editor. Okay, that gets you the layout toolbar. So if we went and created a profile from scratch, right, you would also get to the layout toolbar. And now I'm going to edit and change some things about my profile. And I got a couple of approaches. There are two approaches, and remember all of the layout toolbars, whatever layout toolbar you're going to run into, kind of has setup on this end, editing and settings down, setup down here, creation in the middle, editing, and find little graphic details down here. And when we're talking about editing, there are two ways to approach your profile and your alignment. There's, point of intersection based or entity based, right? And they are different. So if I want to pick this vertical curve, right? Okay, you can see, hey, right? I can change only specific parameters about this one curve. Why? Because the type of curve it is defines the geometry, and whether it's free, floating, or fixed, right, constrains what I can edit. And I can look at this and go, well, okay, I really can't change the gradient or where the PVI is and all that stuff. So I know right away I'm dealing with a float. Okay, so it's tied to the two tangents going in and out since I can't change them, right? And now I can't change the type of curve, it being an asymmetrical. So I can only say, well, I'd really like that to be 100, okay, and my length too, I'd really like that to be, 150. And those allow me, and Civil 3D, responds. Okay, so that's entity based, right? We can also take a look at all the values for my entire length of my alignment, right? And you can see stuff's grayed out. Some things I can change, some things I can't, depending upon the type of curves. And as you can see, it is possible to have multiple types of vertical curves in a single profile. Well, how would I change these? Okay, so hey, that's pretty easy. Hey, well, since you can't change them after they're created, that means you have to remove them. Okay, logically. So we go back to PVIs, right? And what we're going to do, are we going to delete the PVI or are we going to delete a curve? Well, actually, we want to go entity based, and I want to get rid of, that vertical curve right there. That, where'd it go? Oh, it already went away. I clicked on it, right? Okay, and you'll see all my labels update. Now I simply have two tangents. Okay, so I'm back to my two tangents. So now what I want to do is I want to put a vertical curve back in, right? I can move my PVI around, okay? Right? I can move it up and down, right? Do some other stuff with my PVI, but we're simply going to replace and go back to a classic symmetrical, right? Vertical curve. So there would be a free curve, not a floating curve, right? I misspoke earlier. This is a free curve. We want to constrain it by what? Both tangents. Okay, and as you can see, you got all three kinds, all three types of vertical curves are actually built in here, so you can actually, do classic circular curves, right? By default, right? This command is the most common one. This is the default command setting in Civil 3D. It's a symmetric parabolic curve, right? And it wants two things, right? Since it is, right, that type, right? And we could define it by K value, by radius, or by curve length. We're going to go 300 feet just so I don't make things go crazy, right? And once again, it's Civil 3D vernacular, right? We have now redefined our curve, right? And right, it's now symmetric parabolic. Pretty dang sinking easy. So pretty much you can sketch out a set of tangents, apply the proper vertical curve, get the PVIs in the right location, and massage the entire beast. Let's go through that process one more time. How do we do that? Okay, so we got a curve. How do I know what kind of curve it is? I can grab it. I can grab and see what it is. Right? What am I grabbing? Select the sub-entity. I've got what I want. Okay, come on. You're being uncooperative. Right, there you go. Okay, so a couple of little tricks to that little piece of the interface, little flaky here and there, right? You got to watch this. You want to make sure that you got the sub-entity editor up and you can have this guy up too. So one of the cool things is this mobile dialog box allows you to see big picture, little picture, and edit. Okay, so we saw that. So this is nice. It's got lots of screen room, right? Which I don't happen to have when I'm doing GoToMeeting, so I don't. And we needed to get rid of that one. So how do we get rid of that thing? Okay, so we want to be an entity based and we want to get rid of that curve, right, which leaves my tangents, right, leaves me my point of vertical intersection in place, right. Say okay, Civil 3D immediately updates things. It said you just got a grade break there at that location now. Okay, I wanted to put in a new curve, so we go back to curves, right. Hey, let's just put in a circular curve. Break a whole bunch of no-nos. It wants to know, hey, I don't have much to do. I need to have a PVI to put it. All I got to do is get close to the point of vertical intersection, right? And, what do I want this guy to be? Well, also do it 300 feet. And it won't go bing. And got my vertical curve. Exit out of the command, right? Have my vertical curve. My defined group label set, gives me instant feedback, tells me the information, throws in my label, and hey, I'm happy to pick them up. I got my vertical curve, right? And once again, hey, what's going on? Now you'll see I got a circular curve, right? Okay, let's get rid of it. I don't want my, that looks so pretty, right? Okay, so none of this rocket science. Go back to symmetricals. I want to pick, okay, this one and that tangent, and we'll make this 150 feet, right? Be all done. Get my label back, and maybe I'd like to have a little more sophisticated labeling, right? So this is sort of a quick and dirty layout mode, so I get basic K values and all those things, right? And once again, you can massage those values, you can massage to those values, right, in Civil 3D in the editing interface, but I like to label these a little bit differently. Couple of little tricks here you'll want to be careful. Since I finished the geometry, the layout mode box, the profile editor is still in place. I can in fact undo back here and go all the way back before I edit it. Okay, when you start messing around with the group labels in a big way, if you want to just change one or two, okay, but if you're going to mess with things in a big way, make sure you end out of your editing session, right? You'll crash less, which will make you happier, right? Okay, and if you do crash, make sure you turn in your CERs. Okay, so I'd like to edit the labels again. Well, we know right click always works, edit labels. If I grab a label, I can edit the whole group label collection, right? And these are the sag curves. And I've got those definitions. Once again, I can go grab a whole set. But let's say I would like to, label my sag curve a little bit differently. And once again, you get whole style collections, sag curves, right? And notice in the new jump, both asymmetric and circulars are in there, right? Okay, so we want beginning and end with low point information and data. Okay, and this one is done like a dimension, and it should be will be obvious, right? So it looks like a dimension. Okay, it can be connected to multiple places. I could say I'd like it into the command so things can make a little bit of a sense, and I'd like to be 2 inches above what? Well, that's going to be the midpoint or the PVI location actually, right? Okay, based on the label style. So, boink, get mine, and I can manually drag this around. So you can reposition things manually. As I already showed, you can reset stuff. And notice that there is, while I get the headlight stopping distance, it's symmetrical and I can calculate that. I get that expressed in my label. I get the R value for the curve. I get the length of the vertical curve, where the PVI is. But even though I pick something that says, give me a low point, Civil 3D knows, hey, this curve, the low point is at the end point, so we're not going to bother to show you the low point information. Let's go over to our other vertical curve, which does have, and so you can see, since I applied that to my entire alignment, I got my low point, which is off of my PVI, labeled, since I'm employing the same style. Well, what if I have two different kinds of sag curves? What if I'm using a circular curve in one case and the other one? So how do I get different kinds of labels in there? Well, this is one of the really cool things about group labels is I can say, well, I only want this applied, right? And you do have to kind of go, okay, I do have to know my stationing here. I really need to know from 1200 on, right? Okay, I want to apply that one, okay, and we can pay attention here. We're at 1500, so let's make sure we avoid it. So we'll go 1800. From 1800 on, okay, we're going to apply that curve. And now I need to have a different sag curve, and I want to have my first one, right, labeled with, I'm going to intentionally pick, the asymmetric parabola, right, and put it on the first part. And, I could say, that one, I want to end at 1800, okay, and we'll leave it. So you could tune up things. And so as you can see, that's how you can label multiple labels, get the right information on the right kind of curves, right? And so one of the little sneaky things they sort of tell you but don't tell you, right, is that you can have multiple group labels of the same type, right? So you can have multiple sag labels. So it is possible to actually build up label detail, and I can have 3, 4, 5 of these, right? And get what I want and apply that label as I want within the context down my um, individual profile. Since we're only talking about one of the many profiles that I can have in my profile view. And that's what my profile view does. And that's basically how group labels work. And I thought that was pretty sexy stuff. So we're going to hop down and go to the very last slide here. And here's some group label realities that we've seen, right? So profile group labels annotate profiles, and they can contain line work, markers, symbols, lots of data. So just to hop back here, we're doing all kinds of things like putting the right kind of markers at the right location, putting little markers, drawing line work between things to make things make sense, right? Okay, give me the reach of my curve, repositioning, all this stuff, all controlled in the label style, and it is recognizing types, but so I can have different types of labels, right? And since different geometry has different values in it, you will get question marks, which says this is not a symmetric parabola, so I better fix that. And since we did it intentionally and we know where that is now, we can go back and pick a top-down, a different version, right? Okay, so radically you could change what things are labeled, how they're labeled, all that stuff, and that's what a nice collection of styles allow you to do. Get that stuff, apply it, and as the density of data, the different kind of alignments and profiles that you have to deal with, right, and the different jurisdictions you have to do are going to require you to label things differently. Hey, that's what style is all about solving. I'm not worried about it at this point, right? But so, easy enough to get what you want in the arrangement you want, and the odds are the jump probably has a shot at meeting most of your basic needs right out of the box. Okay, and hey, it all plots, it all works together, all goes to nice NCS layers and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you've seen how group labels work at that level. So we have this idea of a set, which allows us to apply a classic arrangement of stuff. I need something from my local city jurisdiction. I know what they want, how they want all that stuff. It could build that up not only in terms of the contents of the profile labels that you apply, but also how they're applied geometrically. So once again, hey, Bob's been messing around with my profile. I really want to go back to the whole thing, right? Edit my label group. Whatever Bob did, hey, I want to go back and, get the basic information I need to do my classic layout stuff and get that on the screen and classically label it. So you can define what that set is, how those are, and if you go and edit the set, right? Okay, so a set is applied, and now that it's applied, if I can edit the applied set, but the set remains the same. So over here in settings, if I have a profile, right, label style, label set, and these are where they come from, right? Here's what layout is. If I edit this guy and change what these parameters are and how stuff is done, which varies by that type of label and, in part the style, right? How all that is done. If I edit this, that does not change this. Okay, so this is, setting up your classic way you want to work. Okay, that's the idea of a set of group labels. Okay, and just want to be clear, editing that set doesn't change anything you've already produced. So that's good news, bad news. Okay, if you edit the set, you got to reapply it to get it right. Okay, group labels, have lots of data. Okay, and lots of ways to arrange it. I just showed you a few. So pretty much, it's pretty tough to say, oh, it can't do what I want. Mostly that's a level of, skill. So as we saw, you may also have issues, and one of the classic things would be our jurisdiction demands that this vertical curve have station labels applied, right, from the beginning of the curve. And I've heard that one before, and so how would you do that? Well, obviously you can't do it on just one profile, so you need a copy of the profile and a couple of sets of major station labels, right, on two profiles, one that shows, one that doesn't. Easy enough to do, just kind of boring, laborious work to make somebody happy, right, who wanted the stuff stationed that way. Okay, so, but it's possible to do with group labels a couple of profiles. Remember, and this is really key, more than one of a kind of a group label, as we saw with our sag curves, is allowed. So if you have differences and want things labeled differently based on what's going on in the profile, this is also true of alignments. You can massage the group labels by stations, as I showed you, and that allows you a lot of annotative flexibility. You can pretty much get over whatever your problems are. Remember, if it's really, really dicey and it took you quite a while to get set up, you can also save your bacon, as I love to say, and after you get it all arranged, save the label set, okay, so that you can reapply it. So if you've got to do major edits and everything's got to change, you don't lose all that granular little work that you did. And so you can have job-specific or project-specific label sets, easy enough, right, inside a drawing, and you can move them around as long as, and the styles are going to go with them as you drag and drop them. Okay, so sets are a great way to maintain, get what you need, figure out what that is, reapply it so you don't have to do all that stupid little granular work time and time and time and time and time again. Save you more work each and every day you use it. Tune it to get better. Okay, so seeing all that kind of stuff, I'm going to go previous screen here, right? Remember that the alignments of the profiles are bound together, and that profile data can exist in a drawing and not display. Okay, so just because it doesn't show doesn't mean it's in there. I do not need to have my profile data, right, in showing on my screen, displayed in a profile view. Destroying my profile view, so to speak, will not destroy my profile data. That's another reason why, remember, we couldn't select them, right? Okay, in the tool space, right? The other issue, and one of the classic things is, I need to show the flow lines from my, roadway design, and I'll point out something in this drawing, they may not be dynamic, and there are a number of issues where a profile may not be dynamic, like this design profile that we're working on. My service profile also may not be dynamic, and I may not want it to be, okay, for attachment reasons and all those other kinds of things. So one of the things you can do about a profile is control whether it reads data dynamically or not. Okay, and that can be useful, but also you should understand that certain output, certain ways of constructing profiles, right, also will create static, non-dynamic profiles. And we want to show you what that means. And here's a classic example. I have my ditch, so trust me, there's my ditch out, and notice it came from a corridor. I left it thing, and it has a style, and we saw that this style, right, it's all pure tangents here, right, so it just goes down the corridor model and creates a PVI at each one of those places. There is no built-in curvature. It's just a takeoff from the result of the horizontal control, vertical control, and cross-sectional control of my corridor, right, and I produced a profile from it. And notice that obviously my design profile has changed up here. My ditch, which is at some point was connected to it, right? Or came from the current condition of my corridor, and I put that profile, created that profile from my corridor, and my ditch are no longer in sync with its current condition. Well, okay, well, maybe that's, just, well, the corridor doesn't appear to be doing that too, because we could see, simply my surface model here isn't doing a lot of fill, so maybe that's just a data rehash problem. Let's figure out. Okay, now there are other ways to do this, right? Or to test this and see, yeah, my corridor is out of date, so maybe that's all my problem is. Repeat. Okay, so okay, so now my corridor is reflecting, my new design. Hey, uh, my profiles, I, what gives here? Civil 3D's got this, great, dynamic interchange. How come? Okay, so how do I figure out? There's another way to figure out, right? Um, where or the current state or what kind of a profile I am dealing with, and is it part of the profile? So it's got properties, so we can look at the profile, and it's getting data, and yes, it will tell you. But wait a minute, it says it's dynamic, but it obviously isn't. Okay, bug? Don't know. But it's saying it's dynamic, and it's certainly not doing that now. Okay, so, be aware, it may not be telling you the truth. Okay, or that's a bug. I don't know, but okay, so remember your profile view, right, also collects all these guys, all the profiles here, and I could show, okay, and these are from corridors, right, and they got a nice little icon that shows, and you know I have found that for certain in 12 think this is supposed to be dynamic, but it's not doing that right this minute. Okay, okay, and or maybe this is, hey, we're going to make this dynamic and we showed it to you, but we haven't turned it on yet in terms of the code. You tell me. Okay, so uh, uh, I want to get rid of this. Can I get rid of these? No, can't get rid of them. I can turn them off whether you show them or not. Okay, so anything connected to an alignment, or a center line alignment or a profile, right? Notice that all these, since they are related to a baseline, right, that came from this design alignment or this design profile, right, automatically get related to it. Okay, and so this idea of superimposed, what does that mean? Superimposed means a little bit different thing than you might expect. Okay, inside of Civil 3D. So just be aware. So if I want to get rid of those, I can show them or not show them. Right? I think I canceled out there. Here are my profiles. Right? And easy enough to get rid of my ditches, generate new ditches, and we're going to go through that process. Since, right? Get rid of them. Okay, and once again, you can choose to draw these in a profile view or not, depending upon what you want. So since they are all collected, they could be data in your drawing. You can pull them off, and yes, they're supposed to be dynamic, but not necessarily. So pay attention, right? Okay, and I want to get rid of that one. Okay, and change my profile view while I was in there. Okay, so lots of display possibilities here. I could show it, I cannot. Here's another profile. It's actually built left to right. It's exactly the same stuff. The profile view is simply defined differently, so I can go backwards up the road. Okay, and you will see that that is expressed in terms of labels. So Civil 3D can go left to right, right to left. The views, it's a property of the views. It's the exact same design data, just shown differently, right? If you're required to do so. Right, so Civil 3D handles all that kind of mechanics really easily. The view controls, how much of the profile I want to show. That's part of the view properties. When you create a profile view, it asks you these questions. I can say, hey, I really only want to go from, what was that, 1800 to, 2400, okay, and hit apply, and, it will display only a little teeny section I want. And so I can even copy this view, change the stations, get what I want, do stuff, right? And let's leave this alone. And okay, one of the things that might classically happen to you, just because of the way the plan and profile wizard will chop things up, right, is I might end up with a profile chopped up here, um, right through my vertical curve. And so, can I do this? Can I grab this guy, hit the space bar, and do a copy and go, I want another one of those guys, like right here. Let's see. Oh, you're kidding me, right? Okay, so notice I get the defaults based on my settings, right? But I do have a valid view here, and hey, those are the same profile, and my existing ground, that's even the same existing ground profile. Okay, and if I make edits in this little section, it will affect the other one. We want to mess with the stationing a little bit, so let's kind of play with this one a little bit. So my PVI here is at 2050, right? See right there. Okay, and so how about we change where the station is, and we got group labels we want to do, right? I want to edit the group labels, okay, and see there's nothing. Let's just slap that layout one, dink, okay, standardized stuff, right? Get all my labels, look the same, hey, right? Okay, and now I want to change the stationing, go to my profile view, and I want a different range. Okay, so we'll make that slightly short of that PVI, and so we're going to go from 1900. Hey, let's go all the way out to, 3000 at 15. So we'll be a little short of the whole design end, right? Okay, well, and I can move this guy around, unlike, LDT, I don't really care, right? Okay, and you know, okay, that was at 1900, right? So hey, oh well, I wanted to miss that, right? Profile view, right? Station. We wanted to make sure that we didn't get the beginning of it, right? So we'll go 1950, hit apply, and change things around 2500, make that a little smaller, right? So you can tweak around, get your profile to show, and notice here's my sag curve splitting, right? Okay, and my other one's splitting, my label doesn't go to heck, okay? And that's all controlled by how the style responds, right, to the dimension anchors, right? So really easy to, get what you want inside a profile view, right? And you can even stack them up right up together, right? Okay, so I manufactured a split profile, right, which you can also do in the plan production tool, which is actually faster way to do it, but we certainly don't have time to show you all that kind of intricate detail, right? Okay, and remember, well, hey, I would like this to be clipped, right? So that's a profile view property, and that's the style of the profile view, and we'll do lefts and rights. So we got, lefts and rights here. I think, no, I want this to be a right. Okay, and I want this one. profile view properties, right? And I wanted that one to be a left. Oh, did I get the right one? Make sure, you got to pay attention. Okay, I wanted a left, right? Okay, so I got lefts and rights, right? So you can slam things together. There's little buffers going on here intentionally, right? Okay, to show stuff. You'll also notice some other, there are other little subtleties, whether you show, what's going on with horizontal control. So these axis lines are actually horizontal markers, right, for stuff going on with a horizontal sense. Our profile and our alignment are intimately linked at all times inside Civil 3D, so we're able to let you know, show it, whether you want to annotate it or not, is from the group labels. Okay, so and from the profile view, because we could show that in the profile view. I think they're turned on in this view, right? As you can see, the horizontal control is actually marked top and bottom, right? Okay, right, in a profile view. So let me see. I think I covered most of the stuff I wanted to cover previous, right? Couple of little things about sharing this stuff around in projects. Did want to say this. Data references are generally the best way to do this. So construct your design alignment. That's your horizontal control. Construct your design profile, and then make sure those things go out and are away from how you're constructing new corridors, for example, right? Okay. When you get it all set up and working right, make sure you get those out as data references when you're done in QA'd, right? Obviously, while you're making them and getting it all set up, they got to be in a place. After you get them done, make sure you get them out somewhere safe, right? So as you start to build, finish corridors and all that sorts of things, those features can't be accidentally edited. Because in my drawing, if Bob comes along and goes, I don't want that profile to show in my drawing, right? Notice my profile is being blown to bits, right? And my corridor, right? Okay, has some problems all of a sudden, right? Because I actually took out the vertical control for my corridor, and oh no, of course, undo, right? Does work. But I did want to point out, undo. Where's my delete? There's my erase, right? Okay. Save. Okay, so make sure that once you get your design profiles, your design flow lines, and all that stuff all set up, you can do that. I did want to show you real quick before I take a couple of questions. If you have a corridor and, we want to make sure our corridor is, rebuilt. Okay, and you grab your corridor model, and I need to create a profile from my corridor. That's up here in the launchpad, right? Profile from corridor, right? And it will ask you for a feature line. Yeah, maybe you want to go down and pick, and I'm talking about okay, that's my top, right? And that's my flow line right there, right? That's not a feature line. Wait a minute. Oh, there it is. Okay, so now you need to pay attention to what you picked. It's going to tell you what it's pulling out. You need to also toss in here probably whether it's left or right, or depending upon how you name the feature. The jump includes lefts and right corridors, right? So, right, and do you want that profile to be labeled in a way? So we're going to throw no's, right? Okay, and once again, we can go over and grab the other side. Now, this is a symmetrical corridor, right? Okay, whoops, I want the feature line. That's the one I want. Okay, and it picked my last one, so I want my right, leave things the same, say okay, right, we're all done, okay, and do they show up automatically? Yes. And if that alignment, those superimposed profiles, so to speak, right, which is not what it means by superimpose another profile, unrelated alignments. So if I have an alignment, for example, a different centerline alignment for perhaps the edge of a median I want to show, right, or a ditch that's independent of my, right, um, roadway cross section that I want to define, I may want to superimpose that profile. You would create a profile view, grab it, put it, make a copy of it over here. Okay, so that's a different thing. Notice, remember, since we created those profiles, they're related to the same baseline, right? It knows that those flow line gutters came from there. I'm going to widen things out, and it gives them names. And once again, it can tell you, remember, it can't tell you whether it's left or right. Okay, so you need to, when you name them, probably toss in whether this is the left one or the right one. Okay, and they're symmetrical in this case. Remember also, you don't probably need to show them both in your profile view, even if you want to pull them both off, right? Okay, so remember, maybe I only want to show one. Okay, you know, label them, group label them, set up an arrangement of group labels to get what you need. And, if we looked at the style, we'll see the little PVIs are no plot, as we already saw. And so while they show it to you, and why do I leave them on? So that I know that's output from a Carter. Okay, they aren't going to plot. All those little PVIs are going to plot, but it's going to say, this is not really a design profile. Perhaps I wanted to produce that profile to then edit that profile and make a new design profile, because I do want to do something with the flow lines, because I do need to deal with the storm drain, right, as it goes down the street. And that would be faster than editing all the individual stations or doing ranges of edits in the section view editor by simply doing a design profile. And I want to, here's what my quarter engine is going to put out now. So that makes a good start point. Since this is a live editable thing, right? Okay. And I can massage it. Okay. Once again, really? Yes, it has geometry, just like we saw earlier, right? So, hey, over a range of stations, I can, simply change the gradients and grades out, right? Okay, and put, little dips and wibbles, right? So as my design gets refined, right, I can work from existing, get bases, so I don't have to reconstruct it from scratch. I can certainly trace over it, okay, do all that kind of stuff. So that's what profile design is all about. Want to hop up here, see if I got a couple of questions. If you got a question, hey, you can raise your hand. That'll give you a little bit to type. Hopefully we all learned something. Did we learn something about profiles today? We covered a lot of ground and saw a bunch of, I thought, useful stuff for us to all know about profiles in Civil 3D and their capabilities, right? If that was true for you, do me a favor, a little feedback, raise your hand. I'd appreciate that. Hey, cool, right? Some people liked it, yay, right? Okay, so hopefully you can do more work. Hopefully, hey, you remember me and think about, making sure your organization, hey, owns a copy of Instant on Basic. It's going to save you a bunch of work and a bunch of time and a bunch of energy, right? Dealing with how did he get that profile view to show all that stuff and do all that stuff and labels to cross over and not blow up and all that. I think all those CAD weeds you didn't need to worry about, okay? And we can make it real. And hey, if you don't like the way group labels work, right, we all know, right, we can change what the major station labels look like, in a second, right? And major station labels, that actually have circles with the grade, okay, and major stations, and I want my minor stations to actually also use circles with the I grades in a line, okay, to so be different. And we could do cool things like the major stations are labeled that way, the minor stations are labeled that way. And I like little squares or other kinds of cool nifty stuff. Simplify your labels, make your labels easier, faster to read, faster to find stations for QA, whether or not you actually publish this way, right? This can be extremely useful information, get a bunch of information crammed, and what's going on. Now, what happens if I want my minor labels, edit my group labels here, and what if I do them at tens? What happens if I do that? That's going to make it, it's not a lot of labels, but you know, yes. Okay, and hey, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Oh, isn't that cool? Right? Okay, so we do all that kind of nifty stuff for you, so you don't have to figure it out. It's all expression driven, actually, right? And way to get that kind of thing is that's what a jump kit does, right? It allows you a lot more liberty and ability to get more information, show it to you people in more ways, help people make decisions faster, right? Okay, so notice says, hey, we're going through a vertical curve, right? Incoming, outcoming is all adjusting. Ooh, ooh. Okay. All right. So remember, we're dealing with live data, right? Shown any way you want with the feedback you need to get that done. I want to thank you for spending a little time with me.